and welcome back to the Gloves Off, Helmets On podcast. Today we've got the Spanish Grand Prix race rankings. Really good race for me.
Definitely an entertaining one.
A lot of controversy towards the last 5 laps.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it's been a really good weekend actually. Probably one of my favourites that have happened so far. I just feel like there's a lot going on.
Yeah, McLaren's has obviously edged a bit away from Verstappen now, but we'll talk about that. But
yeah, the cars as well, they all seem to be sort of progressing, going in a little bit different directions to what we have seen for the first few races, which you can definitely see in Ferrari and Mercedes at the moment, which spices it up a little bit.
Yep.
So the championship and the drivers are definitely going sort of like different directions now at the moment. So it's getting a bit more interesting now.
Yeah, the McLaren seem to have run away with it a little bit, so it could now be a 2-leg race between them two. But, it's Verstappen, don't count him out.
Yeah, he could definitely bring himself back. That's for sure, as we never know what that man is doing, evidence being last night.
Yeah.
So
That's crazy.
Could have got any direction now at this point.
Okay, race rankings.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to start where we always start, with the Racing Bulls. Very strong race.
Yeah, I think
honestly,
from the pair of them, really, it was pretty good results.
Yeah, big points again. This puts them 6th in the Constructors now, just ahead of Haas.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm guessing that's their aim, because Williams seemed a little bit too far forward, but sixth would be a great result for him. Isaac Hadjar obviously demonstrating why he is worthy of that Red Bull seat, but obviously, hopefully he stays in this Racing Bulls, but obviously he's showing why he's definitely the best Racing Bull driver.
Yeah, definitely.
Finishing P7, basically best of the rest. I've given him 4 out of the 5 stars.
I was a little bit more harsher with 3.5. To be fair, I think he had a really competitive race and he seemed to defend himself pretty well, and he was always sort of there, which we're seeing a lot of now as he gets more confident stuff. Definitely a little bit of a scrap between him and Gasly as well. But I don't know, I've given him 3.5. I think he could have done a little bit more because, he does sort of weave in there a little bit, but could have expected something a little bit better. Don't know, but okay. 3.5.
Yeah, obviously he did give us a great little scrap with Gasly, which is always good to see. Like
entertaining.
Yeah, and it's good to see him doing well. Liam Lawson, honestly, a pretty decent race from him.
Yeah.
Just outside the points. I mean, obviously, still a good race, I guess you could say, but just no points. But
yeah.
He's improving, obviously, with the Monaco result and this result now. He's getting better, so I've given him a 3-star.
To be fair to him, as you've just said, he's improving. I think over the next few races as well, maybe he just sort of is, bringing it back. Because I imagine, Red Bull was a really big confidence knock for him.
Yeah, it would have been.
So you can see he's making sort of little improvements now with the way he's placing in races and qualifying. So maybe he does just slowly start picking it up again and getting better. Because he wasn't terrible last year.
No.
I've given him 3 stars for today, for this weekend. I think he had a decent qualifying, obviously nothing special, and finished just outside of the point. So maybe he would have got a little bit more, but 3 stars I think is pretty generous for him. Yeah.
He had his little scrap with Behrman as well.
Oh, that didn't stop.
No.
The eye just froze.
Got right in the way of Verstappen and Norris, that didn't it?
Yeah, a little bit messy. So I think he had a few with Alonso, didn't he? Sort of getting caught up in it as well.
Yeah, he was all fighting.
Yeah.
But yeah, a good result for Racing Bulls. 6 points to take home. Not bad.
No, not at all.
Okay, Haas. Very poor weekend from these.
Yeah.
Like we say with Haas, it seems to be hit or miss with both of them. Really, they either get massive points or no points, and that's what seems to be the case. Behrman, I've given him 2.5.
Yeah, I've given him 1.5. His qualifying obviously wasn't the best. I don't know. He's not a very good qualifier, to be fair. No, usually he performs better in the race, which he's more or less done every single race now, up until yesterday, 17th.
Yeah, poor race.
Terrible. Yeah, I don't know. And to be fair, halfway through that race, I thought he was having a pretty decent one.
Yeah.
But he just kept falling back, and obviously Scott with Lawson, I don't think he did him any favours. So 1.5 stars from me, because he's got it in him. I just don't really know what happened. A bit messy this weekend.
Yeah, and then Ocon seemed to be a little bit worse for me than Behrman. I've given him a 2-star. I just think it's a weekend to forget for Haas.
Yeah, I honestly don't think we really heard much from Ocon in the race at all this weekend.
No.
Don't remember any key standout moments. I've given him the same as Behrman, 1.5. I think they're both pretty similar this weekend. Nothing special from them at all. Yeah. So hopefully they'll forget about it and move on for the next
And now
race.
They've dropped down to 7th in the Constructors.
I know,
so
and it's not good.
They're going to have to sort it out.
It's just too competitive now in like
The
mid
midfield,
back. Yeah, it's not good.
It's good. Speaking of competitive, Sauber. Both of them were really in the mix today. I'm so pleased for both of them.
Yeah,
I'm so happy
really
for Sauber.
good. Me too.
Obviously, we'll start off with Bortoletto. His career best qualifying
Amazing.
and his career best finish. P12 and P12. For me, that's a 4-star. He was so close to points. I'm really impressed.
I've given him 3.5 stars only on the fact that I thought he was going to get points for most of that race because he was looking pretty comfortable in P10 for like majority of it.
Yeah,
switching between like P10, P11. Him and Hulkenberg swapping places, I think, a couple of times. So I was really thinking he would have finished in the points, but just obviously missed it. So 3.5, he would have got more if he finished in the points. But regardless, it's a really successful weekend for Bortoletto.
Yeah.
Overtake, beautiful as well.
Yeah.
So
he did. He had a nice couple of overtakes to be fair to him. But Hulkenberg is obviously the Sauber focal point.
I know.
He's managed to finish P5 in that bin. 5 stars. Obviously, it's not even close. Of course, he's getting 5 stars. That's insane. So obviously now, that's put them up in the constructors. From what looked like they were going to come last by a million miles, they are now not even last.
Huge points for Sauber though. That could genuinely like make them place well even at the end of the season.
That could keep them ninth for the rest of the season. You'd never know.
And that for them is better than nothing.
But yeah, Hulkenberg, massive 10 points taken on for Sauber. That's just it's insane.
Yeah, I've also given him 5 stars, obviously. To finish 5th in that car, in what world? Qualified 15th as well.
I know.
He had he literally
race.
moved up 5 places at the start.
He did. He got right up. Right, he did.
And then just kept going. Everything just sort of worked seamlessly for him. And in like the little cool down room afterwards, I literally remember
everyone was buzzing,
and Norris looking at each other thinking, I want to start looking at
Yeah, they all mentioned it. And obviously he overtook Hamilton on track.
That's embarrassing. But
at the end of the safety car restart, just towards the end of the race, he literally whacked the move on Hamilton, sailed past him, got him into the braking zone, bam.
I'm surprised Rosberg didn't have a dig at him for that. I'd have thought he'd have made like a little joke, but
I can't believe it, honestly. Hulkenberg, though, I mean, what a sign from Sauber to get that man on board.
It's amazing. To do that in the Sauber, like, think the past few years,
I know.
how people performed in it.
No, but we he was looking like he was looking at 9th maybe, and we was even saying that's a 5-star finishing 9th. And he's gone and put it into 5th for us. So obviously with the Verstappen penalty that helps him, but it's that Hamilton overtake.
It is still finished well, regardless of the Verstappen, though, yeah. So
yeah, I mean, huge points for Sauber. And they'll probably be buzzing about that for the rest of the year. Yeah, massive. Now Alpine.
You know what? Sorry, I'm actually surprised Hulkenberg didn't get driver of the day for that.
I know it's a bit.
I don't understand driver of the day, me.
It's just the favouritism vote.
Yeah, it never seems to work out the way I'd pick it in my head.
Yeah, it's just people who fancy Lando Norris.
Oh, I suppose so.
Okay, Alpine. Colapinto. Could be worse than doing.
Gulp.
Honestly, there's a debate up for the worst F1 driver. It could be doing or Colapinto. Obviously, the swap of bringing Colapinto in it's not worked, or it's definitely not working.
I think Doohan would have done better than Colapinto in the long run. I think if you left Doohan he wasn't. I mean, for his last 2 races weren't bad. I think if you'd have just left him alone, he'd have been fine. You've gone worse off with Colapinto now, I think.
He's done really poor this race. Obviously, he did finish, I guess, a little bit high. Well, he didn't finish last, I suppose, but he was going to. Had that safety car not helped him out. It was very bad. I've given him a 1 star. Yeah,
I've also given him 1 star. It's just, I just don't get it. It's nothing's gelling at all. I think Alpine they're making some terrible decisions at the moment. Obviously, seeing Principal got rid of
Alpine had pace this weekend, shown by Gasly, so there's no excuse really for finishing that bad.
Qualifying, you basically last, and then to finish 15th in the race. That's shocking. Look at your teammate. I don't get it. I think Alpine just need to have a little sit down, a little meeting. Because I don't know who else they'd put in that. Well, they haven't really got any other options for the rest of the year, do they?
Not for the rest of the year, no, not really.
Can't exactly ring Doohan and back and be like, oh.
They might.
Can you come back?
They might. Who knows?
Stupid.
Anyway, yeah. Tough weekend for Colapinto. That second Alpine seat is looking like the second Red Bull seat at the minute.
It's just awkward. Like, you watch it and you just think, oh.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be those guys right now.
It's not good. Okay. On to the other side of the garage. Pierre Gasly. brilliant qualifying, qualified 8th, finished
Yeah.
8th. Yeah, I mean, big points for Alpine again.
Mm-hmm.
Does still have them last in the constructors, but still big points. I've given him a 4-star.
I've given him 3.5. I think, qualified 8th, finished 8th. Beautiful for Gasly points, like you said. I think he's, good at doing that. You couldn't have really asked for much more from him.
Yeah.
So, 3 stars.
Seems to be that
5.
that's the most you're getting out of that car at the minute. That car doesn't seem to be great, but
Yeah.
Gasly's like extracted the maximum today.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he could have finished P7 in front of Hadjar, but I mean, still big points for where they are and the situation they're in. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a big win for Alpine. So yeah, happy for him. Okay, Aston Martin. This is a bit of a weird one.
Yeah,
There's something to celebrate and something to not celebrate. Obviously, Stroll, very poor qualifying, and for me, I feel like that was his excuse to just, he knew he was in for a bad race, and I feel like that was just an excuse to not race, to be honest.
But I think it's quite bad on Aston Martin because they more or less know now what Stroll delivers. So they'd have known he'd have done qualifying and, wouldn't necessarily have got anything special from it. And then obviously, if you say that you can't do the race, you can't have anyone replace you once you've done qualifying. It just doesn't work like that. So he's clearly having these hand issues. Apart from when it started this weekend, because how was it miraculously started and qualifying, now you can't do the race. He could have easily have had a conversation on Friday and been like, what, put a reserve driver in.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that way, you don't know, a reserve driver could have been put in that seat and they could have got points.
Exactly.
And that is what's needed for Aston Martin at the moment, because there's nothing going on. Like, they're doing terrible. Yeah. And this isn't like them. So I don't understand why the decision wasn't made on Friday to say, we'll put a reserve driver in.
You either fully commit or you don't.
Or you don't, because if anything, they've come off worse off now because they've got no points at all, no real performance to go off from this weekend from Stroll. Yeah. So he should have just, instead of being a bit like selfish and just been like, it's probably a shame, to be fair, because if a reserve driver did perform better than Stroll, it'd have been embarrassed, wouldn't it?
Would be a bit.
And then they'd run out of excuses, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
So I think to protect himself and to be a bit selfish, they've just definitely been like, we'll just don't do the race then, because I don't think they'd have wanted someone to outperform him because it just looks bad, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's
so
true.
Terrible call from Aston Martin this weekend.
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird one, a bit with Stroll, I'm not going to lie, but I've given him a 0 because this will probably be the first and the last 0 anyone's ever going to get. But he qualified really poorly and didn't even start the race, so I'm literally giving him 0.
I didn't even write down a rating for him. I just sort of drew a line under it, pretending he wasn't there, so more or less 0 as well.
Fair enough. Alonso, though, first points of the season, finally.
I know.
A lovely little P9. Yeah, I'm really happy for him. It's about time. Obviously, he's been getting very unlucky. He's deserved of a lot more points than he has to his name, but we will take it. It's a start. He's got the ball rolling, and let's see what he can do. I've given him a 3.5.
I've given him 3 stars because he did come off the track.
He did.
So I was going to give him a bit more, and then I thought, you're too old and too wise to be making those mistakes.
He did make a big error.
So 3 stars. Although, to be fair, I remember when I watched it, I was sort of like, oh God, saved it. If it was Stroll, he'd be sat on the stones. I can't get it started again.
Yeah, a bit like Brazil.
Alonso literally just spun it around and carried on. It didn't really affect his race at all.
Yeah.
And like you said, first points of the season, so 3 stars.
Well, had that not have happened, he might have finished 7th, you never know.
Yeah, he was actually having a really good race too. Like we were saying before, he got caught up in a little bit of drama, but seemed to just not really let it affect him. Carried on.
No, it was a good race for him. And obviously Aston Martin, I guess you can sort of be happy about this weekend with that result. But yeah, who knows. Anyway, on to Red Bull. On paper, a very poor weekend from Red Bull. A singular point.
Entertaining weekend though.
Yeah, very entertaining weekend. Obviously, Sonoda, start with him, get him out of the way, because again, nothing really happened. Poor qualified at the back. Decided to go into the pit lane, made nothing of it in the race. I've given him a 2-star.
He end up like screwing Verstappen over a little bit as well.
A little bit, yeah. He lost him a little bit of time.
It's not good. Qualified at the back. It's not good. And then to be fair, moved up the grid a little bit, finished 13th. It's not awful. It's better than what Lawson did when he qualified at the back.
Yeah.
I think I lost track of how many times that man went into the pits as well. Was it like 4?
Oh,
3 or 4 times? I think it might have been 4 stops, yeah.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. So I don't know what the idea was with that. I don't know. 2 stars, not terrible, not good. I felt a bit mean giving
Just
him
move
less. So yeah.
Yeah. Now on to Verstappen. Really difficult one to grade for me.
You know what? I don't care. I love him, so I've actually rated him pretty well. 4
No.
stars.
4 stars?
Yeah.
See, I was tempted to give him a 4, maybe even a 5 had he have held that third. But obviously, the Red Bull whacking him on hards, that ruined his podium.
What on earth were they thinking? Who did that?
I do think he still could have finished 5th. But yeah, I mean, Red Bull kind of messed him up, kind of did him over. Like that obviously lost him his podium, and then
Yeah.
I don't know why he did this, Russell. He just started Mario Karting around.
I don't know what fool even put the hards on him in the first place.
Oh, but why did he do? Oh.
It was pretty funny though.
He's killed the championship fight for him a bit though. He's took himself, well, temporarily took himself out of the battle.
Well, yeah, and
Which, with it, you know, that kind of caliber of driver you wouldn't expect from an experienced driver like Verstappen. But hey,
the way he stomped out the car as well was really funny.
it was funny. It was entertaining, but I would have honestly probably given him a 5, but I've had to give him a 3 because obviously the last 5 laps.
I think he did have a really good race onwards at that point.
He did,
And you've got to respect it because he's so good at what he does.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have pitted him because I reckon if they didn't, I think you'd have. If he really went, you know, full defensive Verstappen, I think he could have held it for 6 laps.
When the McLaren's pit, if he'd have stayed out, worst case scenario, he would have finished 3rd, I think.
Yeah.
So
or even he might have, one of them might have got through and he could have finished second, you don't know. But I've given him 4 stars. I don't think he had a terrible race. To be fair, I thought it was quite funny. If you're more of like traditional by the rules kind of F1 fan, you're going to hate everything that he did for the last 6 laps, but it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And like, in hindsight, probably shouldn't have rammed into George Russell because they have just like more or less made pals now as well.
Yeah, and he ruined his race big time.
Yeah.
But
to be fair, the interview after the race as well wasn't too bad because I think Russell said like, you know what, let him. It's Verstappen at this point. We all know what he's gonna act like, and then Verstappen was just like, no comment. But I mean, last year they just probably had a scrap over it.
Yeah. So
he's just acknowledged it and moved on.
Yeah, he needs to not act like that if he wants to win the championship though. So maybe this will cost him the championship. I personally think it probably will. I think this is you know,
he's
the
gonna
championship
have to have a serious
race.
comeback.
This is the defining race in the championship, where this is the race he lost it for me. But you know, you never know, he might come back. Let's not count him out yet. But
If he does come back from this, history.
yeah, well, it already is if he will. Yeah. Mercedes, Antonelli, obviously mechanical failure, not his fault.
Yeah.
But he was having a poor race until that point. I've given him 2.5, right down the middle.
Don't necessarily think his race was terrible.
I think he was a comfortable 7th.
Yeah, it's not awful though. I don't think it's what we've seen from him. We think he had a blinding start from like the season. This race obviously wasn't another. To be fair, the past couple of races haven't.
He's had about 3.
But then the
races
car
in a row.
also hasn't really been the best for the past 3 races. So
It's fell off a bit, yeah.
With a new driver in a car that isn't necessarily the best, like I think he's just probably going through emotions at the moment, trying to perform well. Because you got to remember, like, he's still learning too.
Yeah.
He was obviously at the start of the season just very fortunate to be in a good car, so pays off. But I've given him 3 stars. Like I said, I don't think it was terrible. Qualifying was pretty well, just practically behind Russell in qualifying, but obviously didn't finish. So I would like to know what the hell is going on with that car though.
No, back-to-back breakdowns.
Yeah, pretty repetitive with the issues that they're having, and Russell's had a stink with the engine for a while as well. So
it's weird. I hope it's, you know, a short-term fix and this don't keep happening, because this will leave them 4th in the constructors.
Yeah, it's not good, especially
Obviously.
with the start that they've had.
Yeah, they were looking at a comfortable 2nd, and now they're in the fight for 2nd, 3rd or 4th. So it's not bit of a shame. But yeah, obviously Russell had a better weekend than Antonelli. Honestly, this is a strong George Russell weekend, to be fair. Good points really.
George Russell, yeah.
Yeah, well, this is probably his best year so far, but obviously after Monaco last week, getting no points and it was just a shit show. Big points. A lovely P4, nice 12 points to take home. I've given him a 3.5.
Yeah, I've also given him 3.5. Finishing 4 was pretty good for him. It also made me laugh, like, Russell loves a little whine and a moan over radio and like a little bitching sash, and it made me laugh when he come on and he was like, oh, you just ran into me, and Toto Wolff came on and went, concentrate, mate.
Oh, and the first like, couple of laps.
It was like, do you know when when your mum shouts at you and you're like, all right, I'll stop now.
Yeah.
Because obviously everyone else.
He locked in after that.
Yeah, he did actually. So told him.
Yeah. Okay. Williams. Definitely a weekend to forget. Obviously, this is probably the worst weekend they've had all season. I've given them both a 2-star, and let's just move on.
You know, they're having a good season though. If they've both had like a pretty awful weekend, but they're still doing well in the constructors. It's not really affected them.
Well, it's not. They're not even close to 6th now. They're solidified in 5th.
So that's how good they have been doing up until this point. Obviously, Albon didn't finish. I think they made the right call with letting him go out. So 10-second penalty.
Don't
that
take
worked
over a grid
perfectly.
penalty.
Yeah. So I've given him 2 point. Oh my god, I can't talk. 2 stars.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he had a bit of a messy race.
Both did. What if you give signs?
I've given him 3 stars, slightly better because he finished the race.
Okay.
Obviously qualifying wasn't Prix. We'll move past that.
Yeah.
Finished 14th again. Really not the best from signs, especially.
I mean, he lost his race was lost in qualifying, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's not good. So I've given him 3 stars. I think he could have done a lot better, but we'll move on from it, I suppose.
Yeah, happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. Knocked over a wire. McLaren, obviously a 1-2.
Yeah, to be fair, I think they were pretty well matched with performance this weekend.
Yeah, they were pretty even. Obviously, they've ran away from it now in the constructors. There is no fight now. But they have won the constructors. If they don't win the constructors,
something goes terribly wrong.
Yeah, well, they'll have to like get ill and not race for about 5 races for that to happen. But yeah, Piastri, obviously a big win. Just the championship was getting close. There was 3 points in it, and now he's just edged it out to a 10-point gap. Still very close, but I think he needed that. I've given him a 4-star.
Yeah, I've given him 4 stars as well. I think he had a really solid race, pretty good performance, but I think for him to have got more stars from me, I think he would have needed more of a challenge and to sort of overcome it, whatever else.
Yeah, bigger
but
gap.
I think he had a pretty. I mean, he had a good start and then just held it. The pitting all works like seamlessly.
Yeah, they smashed the pit.
With like the gaps and stuff. So I think that like the strategy of the team this weekend, obviously with both of them performing so well, I think really good. So 4 stars for Piastri, and I've also given the same to Norris.
I've given Norris a 3.5, a little bit lower, because I do think Piastri just about edged him, because obviously Piastri whacked it on pole, beat him there, and then obviously controlled the race a little bit better. But yeah, it's a shame that we couldn't see the fight with Verstappen and Norris and Piastri come to terms at the end with what happened to Verstappen.
Yeah, because it would have been a good one.
And hard tyres. But yeah, a good weekend for McLaren. I think they'll be happy with it. Well, it couldn't have gone any better, actually. So of course they'll be happy with it. Norris, I don't think he'll be happy though, because I think he needs to... He's a bit weird with his confidence, and he seems to just shoot himself down all the time, and obviously, I think he needs to win a few to really get that back.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I suppose it's hard with them too, because they are like, I'd say Piastri's got a tiny bit of an edge on him for like skill wise, and obviously Piastri's got that confidence that Norris seems to be lacking at the moment, which is why Piastri's probably performing better.
It is just a confidence thing. I don't think there's there's not much in him ability wise.
Yeah, no, I think Norris just needs to sit down with himself and like, you know what, can I do
this 2-week break will do him good.
Hopefully.
He'll need the time to just relax. He's good at Canada as well, so he might.
But we'll definitely get an interesting title fight out of them both regardless.
Definitely. And yeah, hopefully Verstappen as well. Okay, Ferrari. I mean, poor from Hamilton, but good from Leclerc. Yeah. Again, it was mix and match. So Hamilton, one of his worst races of the season for me. Obviously, being overtaken by the Sauber, the slowest car. That's a bit embarrassing.
I have actually read this week that the Ferrari team have said that they are quite disappointed in the lack of like success Hamilton's brought them. Yeah. Because they said that they thought from the onset that they'd get a bit more from him, but they obviously haven't. Obviously, the car plays into that as well.
I think they're silly for expecting that though. With last year.
Well, yeah, but
how Russell
with the way that but Hamilton always blamed it on the car. So who are they to know? Like you don't really. And Hamilton always says it's this, it's that. There's 100 other reasons. And when you go off history, they've probably looked at Hamilton and be like, you know what, he's still pretty good.
Yeah,
he's had a serious history, and they thought we'll whack him in the Ferrari, and hopefully it'll light his confidence. And
I think
we'll
part
do
of the
history again.
reason they got him on board as well is the name, what
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
the money and sponsor he brings over to Ferrari. So yeah, I don't know.
But think of what all of Hamilton's fans say about him. They all still think he's the best driver on the grid.
True.
So I think a lot of people probably expected him to do better than he is.
Yeah.
But
I guess so,
they've said that they're quite disappointed in the lack of success they've had so far.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I've given him a 2-star, very poor, and I'm not gonna lie, I was gonna give him a 2.5, but Hulkenberg overtook him. Yeah, I mean, obviously he finished P6 in the end because of the Verstappen penalty, but you know, P7 sounds a lot worse than P6. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, you know, decent points because Leclerc obviously got a really good result. They ended up coming out of the race with decent points, and they've collected more points than Red Bull and Mercedes. So obviously it's good for them in the constructor wise. But yeah, I think he's lost it.
Yeah, I've given him 3 stars. Qualifying was pretty decent with 5th, but obviously I just don't think he had a very good race at all. He obviously finished decent, but the race itself, like, it wasn't good.
Yeah.
And then Leclerc qualified 7th, so behind Hamilton. I didn't necessarily think he was going to have that much success this weekend, but he had a really, really good race.
He had a stonking race.
And it just kept going. I think he was sort of feeling this weekend, and then obviously finished 3rd. He got a podium.
Yeah.
So I've given him 4 stars. I think slowly but surely now, I think we're progressing with Leclerc a bit for him to be like in his normal performance.
Yeah.
So
I
you
think
know, he's getting a few
Ferrari
podiums.
are figuring it out as well. They seem to be a little bit quicker, and obviously Leclerc's the one extracting that out of the car.
And hopefully we'll get a win soon.
Yeah, by one of them, probably Leclerc. I've given Leclerc a 4-star as well.
Yeah.
He's had, you know, another podium, back-to-back podiums. Can't argue with that. Very good. Obviously, a little bit lucky with the whole podium thing with the Verstappen hard situation. Well, he was going to finish 4th though without the whole safety car, which.
But yeah, I mean, to be fair, I don't think Verstappen could have done much more. Whatever, they messed it up. He obviously was very fortunate, and then I mean, it's quite sad when you watch Verstappen like starting, car just goes off, and Leclerc's like, my turn.
Right through, yeah. But yeah, no, very good podium from Leclerc, and he did drive a very strong race, so fair play to him. Who's your driver of the day?
I've actually stuck with the OG driver of the day, Verstappen, because I thought he had a really good race and entertainment value. I think it's what people want, I suppose, these days from Formula 1.
Okay.
So obviously I can't ignore Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg had an amazing time, so he'd have been my second, but I've stuck with Verstappen. He's my driver of the day.
Okay.
Who's yours?
I've gone Hulkenberg, and it wasn't even close. Hulkenberg, that's probably the best race we've seen all season from anyone. This is the most deserved driver of the day for me.
I think it's quite nice as well, because obviously when he signed for Sauber, everyone sort of said then, oh, well, it's the end of his like success in F1. And, you know, he's never got his podium, he's never done this, he's never done that.
Close.
Still performing.
Close yesterday.
He's still doing it. So I think with a little bit of luck over the next couple of years, he might surprise us with something.
That podium's got to come.
Hopefully he'll stand on the little 3rd one day.
That'd be beautiful. But yeah, definitely a good weekend for racing.
I think it was actually a really entertaining weekend.
A good weekend for the Constructors' Championship for some teams, and yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it.
When the 2 McLarens come like 1st and 2nd at the start of the race, I was like, oh, sigh, same thing. But then it got a bit interesting, so I imagine that's what everyone else thought as well.
And also,
watching it.
Our next video, it will be a different setup. We won't have all this.
I know.
All this will be gone.
Yeah.
It'll be a different table, everything. So.
Yeah, we've been living in the Philippines for the past 6 months.
Yeah, we've got to lap it up, because this is going.
We're going home, and then we're going to start up a little studio.
Yeah, we're going to do our best, see what we can do.
We'll get a little bit going behind us.
Yeah, try and get some nice lights and stuff. Make it a proper professional setup.
Yeah.
Make it like more of a, and we're going to invest in better equipment and everything. So hopefully the podcast is going to...
Content and quality of content will improve.
Yeah, hopefully everything will get better about this podcast now. And we can start getting a move on with it.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for listening, and we'll be back for Canada. Bye.
Bye.